Thank you very much, Nick, for inviting me. I'm Stephen. I'm the program manager for the change program at Harborough. And my role has entailed, I've been there around about 2 years, and my role has entailed convincing them that they needed a change program, which we've got to the point that we have a change program now, which is good. And then getting in place some of the things needed to from a digital point of view to move things forward. But I ought to say the change program is not just about digital. The drivers really are about improving the customer experience, about making savings. Harbour's now got to save something like getting on for a third of its budget. And so going along with that, automation and those kinds of things as well.
Excellent. Thank you. So, I guess before we touch on the wonderful topic of low code, I'm going to ask the same question, same first question to you as I asked of Lee, and what was that initial driver for change within the organisation? Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think it's probably important just to set a bit of context for Harborough. Harborough has done some outsourcing of its services, so that's an important starting point. So from its waste service, that is delivered operationally by a company, FCC, but quite an important part of their sort of setup that has driven the need for some change is their telephone contact centre is actually managed by Charnwood Borough Council. So Harborough doesn't have its own telephone contact centre. That also meant that it didn't have its own CRM. It didn't have the ability to take seamless transactional payments online. And it didn't have any ability to do any automation behind online transactions. So any forms or anything like that had been done effectively became a manual process from the moment they landed. And because of that, some of the customer experiences were not great. And one of the first things I did when I got there is went and talked to some customers about their experiences and used those stories to help make the case for a change program. And I have to add to that the experience for the waste service, because they had tried to put together an online service for garden waste, which is what we're talking about today, was equally poor. There was a point in being a resident, I know, there was a point in the process where you landed on Charnwood Borough Council's website in order to make the payment. Now, as a customer, that's not good, because you kind of think, what is going on here? Security, all of those kinds of things. So poor customer experience, poor automation, and just generally not good. So low code. Why low code? Well, we needed something. There was a hole in our technology which created a hole in the ability for the organisation to change.
Yeah.
And it being a relatively small organisation, we needed a way to be able to automate. We needed a way to hook into being able to make seamless transactional payments, and we needed to do that without a massive input of technical ability and knowledge, because we've got quite a small IT function that is very overburdened with all sorts of issues, and low code seemed to lend itself to that kind of situation. Equally, I think low code could lend itself to much larger organisations that have those abilities, but for an organisation like this, that was the rationale of going down the low code route.
And I guess also because I guess you're almost starting with a blank piece of paper because of that customer service function existing elsewhere. You were able to.
It's sort of a blank piece of paper, but Charnwood has a CRM.
Right.
So they use that for the telephone contact centre. That, from a customer point of view and from an organisational point of view, that wasn't very good because we have no joined up intelligence across the telephone and online channels.
Yeah.
And that you can't go forward as an organisation, digital organisation, in that way. so it's not an entirely blank piece of paper, but you know, Charnwood are happy for us to go down the route of creating that joined up and that joined up infrastructure, and that supporting the telephone channel as well.
So was it, because when talking about sort of the fact that I guess the allusion to the citizens of Harborough was that, you know, their council was digital because they were able to do stuff online. However, you know, once they got past the website, it spat out an email, and then it was all double data entry, well, swivel chair integration, as some people call it. So was there a digital transformation plan? Did that exist within the organisation?
Well, no, as I say, when I came in, I had to convince the organisation that they needed a programme of change.
Yeah.
So and you know, a big element of that is a digital transformation element, and you know, through this work, we have, you know, I have got that in place now, that there's a need for that digital transformation.
And what about also, because I mean, you know, obviously the Loco platform lends itself to that sort of agile way of working, doesn't it? That sort of minimum viable product, iterate, succeed, etc. I mean, there's obviously been a culture change, it sounds like a massive culture change in the 2 years you've been there, because you've had to go in and almost say, we need to have a plan. We need to be able to do this stuff. We need to find a product that can do all that stuff. We need to go low code. So I'm making well, it's not a massive assumption, but I'm assuming that there has been massive culture change within Harborough.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're at the start of that culture change journey, to be really honest with you.
Yeah.
We've done enough to convince the organisation that we needed to get a low-code platform in, but you know, we've got to take the organisation on the journey now. I feel like I'm leapfrogging the garden waste a bit, but the drive from the savings that we need to make, I think, has reinforced that. You know, I can see already from the kind of automation that we have put in place for garden waste, that people are starting to see the kind of change of roles that brings about. So our waste team got very involved in the operations before we put this in place, because there were always exceptions and things that came up they needed to get involved in. And so they were effectively, although we had customer services, they were getting involved as well. The waste team were getting involved as an operational team. Yeah. But really, the whole outsourcing model approach mean that waste team should be a strategy team. And by putting the automation in place, they are now far less involved in the operational processing, and are now faced with, actually, as we go forward and do more of this, you know, actually we need to make more of the use of the intelligence that gives us, start thinking about other services that we need to move into this territory, and thinking beyond. I think they're not there yet, but in my mind, thinking beyond that to other digital opportunities that may present themselves, you know, Internet of Things and all that kind of stuff. They're nowhere near that yet, but that's the kind of transformation that we need to be thinking about. They are starting to think about things like, actually, we have a relationship with community safety, because, you know, our operations teams out there are in parks and in open space, in spaces. So what about that relationship with community safety? And that's the kind of transformational change that we really want to be happening, cross team thinking and working.
But just as a sort of final question, Stephen, how would you what would you recommend to your sort of peers on this call, and I guess people that maybe view the recordings, about the internal case for rolling out this type of programme? Have you got any sort of suggestions, maybe around sort of performance frameworks, that sort of thing?
Yeah. So one thing that low code brings with it is the ability to take a much more agile approach to development. So for garden waste, we started development in earnest at the beginning of January this year. We went live at the beginning of February, 1st of February. That was with help from Netcall. Don't get me wrong, wasn't just us doing it. But that was 4 weeks. And in that time, we got integration with Whitespace. We got integration with our payment system. A newly procured element of the payment system. And that was Capita as well. Managed to get some alignment of projects happening there, which was really good. But when we went live on the 1st of Feb, there were things that needed dealing with. But because we had the data there, we could see what was going on, and so we were able to, on a weekly basis, put in a new screen, or add some other things to it. That operationally we could tinker with what was happening with the customer services, with FCC and so on. And evolve that service to make sure that we didn't revert back to some of the bad practices. And that's a new way. We're having conversations about. There's two things to mention. One is let's not assume that we're going to deliver everything at the same time. 1 month and then weekly chunks is a good way of working, but that's a very different way to working to the whole kind of Prince2 mindset. And it's a lot for people to get their heads around. Let's be clear about that. But also, we have a plan now being put in place to migrate all of what's in Lagan across to Netcall by the end of this year. But that will not be complete redesigns of all of those services. But by moving it into Netcall, it gives us the opportunity to do complete redesigns and automation and all those good things. Yeah. So the whole organisation needs to get their heads around. You've got to be thinking about what it is that you're actually trying to do here. What do you want from that change in your service design, and get conversation and dialogues going around that. So that's my thought. I think it is about moving to being a more agile organisation. It is about changing our performance frameworks and approach to be thinking about what are the things we're going to change about our services over the next year. Not these are the services we do and these are the performance criteria, but actually what significant changes do we really want to plan over the coming year, and what's that going to do for our customers? So it's that kind of customer focused thinking and service redesign thinking, and so that changes a lot of the kinds of approaches to performance that we might have been used to in the past as local government. So there's some of my thoughts about it.
Excellent. And I guess just as a final thought, how has the garden waste, the project, how has that been sort of received by the organisation?
Very well, actually. At both the member level, they're thrilled with it. And they think that there's a lot of support for this kind of work that we've done at the member level, and I think it has consolidated the idea that we need this change programme, and there's a lot of interesting conversations going around about actually we need to to create more of a solid digital team to support this kind of work, and perhaps move some of the responsibilities around that that previously were a bit disjointed and siloed. So it's starting a kind of conversation at the top level about, actually, we do need to start thinking about changing the shape of the organisation to support a more digital first approach.
Excellent. Well, thanks very much, Stephen. It's been really interesting, and I think now Mr. Simon Pike again is going to pop up, and he's going to run a quick sort of video demo of the garden waste.
Can you hear me and see my screen?
Yeah, we can, Simon.
Fantastic.
Excellent. Thank you.
Excellent. Yeah, so thank you for that, Stephen. So we're just going to have a look at the system that Harborough have put in place, and this is running from Harborough's test system in this case. So again, we start off with a citizen portal, and we're going to go and raise a service request in the same way as we did for Hartsmere's Bulkey, and we go into the new service request area, and we pick garden waste collection on this occasion, and you'll see a lot of familiarity from the last demonstration. So you get some information up front. You can see that the pages are slightly differently designed here because it's based on the way in which you want it to work. You can read some terms and conditions. Again, we're pre-populating information because we know who you are, and again, you can specify to get reminders from that. You can specify again whether the collection address is for the same as the logged in person or if it's another one. In this occasion, we are bringing back some information to confirm that this logged in person already has a garden waste collection subscription up and running. But what we want to do is add an extra bin to that. So they're doing a lot of gardening, so they want to add 5 bins in total. So they're going to add a new single bin onto that, which makes 5 bins in total to be collected. And when you calculate the charge, it updates it to say that you've got a number of 4 already and 1 additional one, and there's £55 charge for that. Do you want to renew it? So they're including automatic renewals as part of their process as well, and that they're happy to proceed, and then they will go off and make the payment. In this occasion, they're using, I think it's Capita's 360 payments engine. So we take them across to there, we enter the card details as normal, enter a security code, and then we'll click continue. Just 2 seconds for it to just catch up with me. Continue. In this case, we haven't pre-populated the cardholder's name. I think that's due to the fact that the API doesn't currently have that information passed across. But if you've got a payments engine that does support that, then again, you would support that in the way that we did with the gov.pay system. So you continue. It tells you what it is that you're subscribing to. You go off and do your authentication for your credit card, etc., and that comes back and gives you a confirmation, and then you can submit that again. You can see your case number, and what Harborough have included is a customer feedback session as well into there, and they can see straight away the subscriptions that they've signed up to on their portal page. So we'll go across now to the agent's interface, and we'll just do a quick refresh, and there you can see that case AI439 that was just raised. We'll open that up and we'll go into the case summary details, and you can see here that it's integrated directly across to FCC White Space. We've got a ticket number back from that, a worksheet ticket number that shows that it's gone across to there. All of that's happened automatically in the background. There's no manual intervention to do that. It's all part of the process. It confirms the collection address. It confirms the amount that was paid and the fact that they have a recurring payment as well, which means that when it comes to the start of the next financial year, they'll be charged again directly through that system. There is possible to put in place cancelling of these within here as well. It is on the system, we just haven't got it included in the demonstration. And again, that could include the ability to remove your automatic subscription if you wanted to. It comes down to customising it to your specific needs.
Excellent. Thanks very much, Simon.
Can I just mention?
Stephen, yes.
Yeah, just to mention, just in case people are interested, that FCC have in-cab technology. So once the customer enters the details of what they want, it doesn't just make its way into Netcall through to Whitespace, but all the way through to the cab without any intervention. So that integration is really quite powerful from in automation terms. And also all those credit card details and stuff were all test cards, so you don't need to worry about personal details either.
Thanks very much. Thanks very much, Stephen, and thank you very much, Simon.